video, I'm going to show you how to sow seeds. Different types of seedlings that are different sizes. So kale, and these are quite small, so I'll just show you these. You're going to need to sow your seeds is some compost, and then I like to use perlite. Perlite is crushed volcanic rock that just gives lots of drainage to your seeds, because people don't realise, but the seedlings need air to germinate as well as water. Sometimes they don't even need light, and that's what starts the process. And also the roots of a seedling are really just looking to get established, and they can't take in a lot of water. So one of the problems that people commonly do is they absolutely drench their plants. But you've got to think, plants are a bit like us really. You know, you don't go from absolutely drought and not getting a drink to then absolutely pouring water into your mouth. You know, that doesn't make sense. And that's one of the problems people have. They're either, you know, letting them get too dry, and then when they get dry, they absolutely drown them. So they don't enjoy that like we wouldn't enjoy that. So you just got to think, really, we're like plants, but just with loads of emotions. You know, we need water, we need nurturing, we need the right nutrients, etc. Yeah, plants are like that really. So we've got our vermiculite, we've got our compost, and then we've got something to sow them in. Now, this is a small seed tray, cost a couple of quid, but you can use anything really. You know, you can use a packet that's had your tomatoes in, or your vegetables, like a vegetable tray, you know, the sort of clear plastic ones with the holes at the bottom. The most important thing is that they have holes in the bottom. So if they have whatever vessel you choose to use, as long as it's got holes in the bottom and it contains the compost and the seeds, that's fine. You know, gardening doesn't have to cost a fortune. Add a bit of the perlite to your compost, and then if you can see the sort of ratio, then just sort of mix it in. And the kind of ratio I'm looking for is that it kind of looks like that. So you don't need very much perlite to add that drainage into your soil. Okay, so I've mixed my ingredients. I've got a free draining compost that's going to go into a vessel that's got holes at the bottom. That's the most important thing. And then I'm just going to fill that up. And then I've got my nice little seed bed there. And then I'm just going to put my tomato seeds, these are Alicante. Common issues people have is that they'll get a packet of seedlings like this, and then they'll just sprinkle them all in. And in there's probably about 50 seeds, and you're not realistically going to be able to look after or plant out 50 tomato seedlings to plants to then, you know, crop in. So you've got to think about sowing little and often, because obviously you're looking at, when you sow your seeds, there will be some that die, some don't all germinate and things like that. But if you sow little and often, you can sort of see what you've got and what you haven't. So for example, today I might sow just a few seedlings, so something like, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there's 13 seeds there. And what I'm going to do is just space them out, so I'll sprinkle. What I tend to do, the smaller the seedling really, you can sort of, I always go from the outside and then sort of work my way in. And I don't know why, but it sort of always ends up quite well spaced out. So I'm going to pop all these in. And have you noticed I'm just sort of sprinkling them on the top, and then that's it really. Wherever they germinate, I'm going to be pricking them out anyway, so they don't, you know, spacing's not like majorly important. But what is important is they don't sow 50 seeds at a time really, because they will be very crowded. And also I'm not going to realistically be able to look after 50 tomato plants. I could give them away, I suppose. So I've got my seeds at the top there, and I'm just going to sprinkle this on to my seed tray. Just sort of top it off really, and then you can press it down. Some people have fancy things. I just think you could do so much just with your hands and fingers. You don't really have to have fancy tools. So I've just pressed it down nicely. The other thing is, don't water from the top. So if I just get that now and whack a load of water on it, the seedlings are all going to sort of move, and I don't want that. So what I would do is I'd get a tray with water underneath, and I'd just sit in it for 10 minutes. And then what you can see then is the compost soaks up the water, and then you can see at the top that it's wet, and you can feel it as well. And that's enough really to set your seeds. The important thing is, because you can't remember what you've sown, and I do this all the time, is label. So if you just pop on your label, tomato, it's Alicante, and the date, and that's it. That's your label in there. So I'm going to show you how to sow seeds that are a little bit bigger. So these ones are butternut squash, and as you can see from our tomato seeds, there's a big difference really in the sort of size, and that tells you about the size of the plant really that's going to grow. It's going to be a really big plant, this. And what I find with you know, pumpkins, squashes, things like that, they grow really, really fast, quite quickly, and especially at this time of year, so we're in the beginning of April, you're not going to be really able to plant them out till sort of May, even June, because you might not have the space, you might have stuff growing in your beds already, but also the frost. You know, we're in the UK, we're in the northwest of England, and we can get frost quite late, so sometimes sort of into May. And last year I put a load of chilies that I'd spent nearly 4 months growing into the greenhouse, and it was June and they all died. So, you know, you've got to think about the frost, especially for these sort of tropical sort of fruits and vegetables really. So really simple. We've got our pot and we've got our seed already pre-mixed, and then but as you can see, there's a big size difference between these pots. You know, that's a very large pot, because these are going to stay in this pot for quite a long time before they're able to be planted out. And then we're simply going to pop our seedlings, and it doesn't really matter which way up, but I do put them on the side because there's less chance, if they were laid down like that, there's less chance of them rotting really. But what you could do is just pop 2 seedlings in, really push them down. So I've gone quite far down with my finger. Okay, push that one down as well. And then that is it really. And don't forget to label. So these are butternut squash. And I put the date as well, so I can have an idea when they'll be ready to plant out really. But they will grow away really, really quickly. And the reason I'm sowing 2 to a pot is because one might not germinate. So it might be that both germinate, and actually I might need to transplant one of the plants into a new pot, but they'll stay in that pot for a while. And remember, how do we know that they're ready to pot on? So we will know when they've got their true leaves. So first they get the cotyledons, and they're just the solar panels getting the light, getting the energy to the plant. Then they get the second leaves, and then the second reason we'll know it's ready to pot them on is when those roots are really coming out of the bottom. Yeah.